For her final presentation, Catherine Barnett presents Females and Filmmaking. Can women give American audiences the movies they want? This is Catherine. Catherine is a bit of a dreamer. She wants to turn her dreams into dollars by putting them on the silver screen. But a lot of people have told her it's a bad idea because there are very few women in the film industry and they don't make much money. Now Catherine's wondering, with a small chance of getting hired only to make a small wage, if her goal of filmmaking is really just a silly pipe dream. The Center for Study of Women in Television and Film published a statistical report entitled The Celluloid Ceiling: Behind-the-Scenes Employment of Women on the Top 100, 250, and 500 Films of 2016. This report clearly shows that there are many more males than females working in the American film industry overall, and the gap increases even more when comparing the number of males to females with the job titles producer, executive producer, editor, writer, director, and cinematographer, basically all the top decision makers. Not only do the guys have a lot more power and representation, but industry-wide statistics provided by the U.S. Department of Labor show that in the majority of job titles, men also get paid higher wages than their female counterparts. So basically, Blondie here was right. The film industry does not prove advantageous for its female members, and that doesn't look too good for an aspiring filmmaker like Catherine. But did you know it wasn't always this way? As Karen Marr explains in her report entitled True Womanhood in Hollywood: Gendered Business Strategies and the Rise and Fall of the Woman Filmmaker, 1896 to 1928, the early history of commercial film was very heavily influenced by women. While there were a variety of factors which historians credit this to, one of the main factors was a supposed lack of commercial value of motion pictures. It wasn't until around 1910, 1920, when the industry had proven itself to have significant lucrative potential, that men finally developed an interest in the industry they had previously scoffed at. By the 40s and 50s, it was apparent that the film industry would only continue to increase in profitability. The combination of sudden male interest, the re-entry of World War II veterans into the workforce, and the patriarchal nature of past American society ensured that men easily took possession of jobs and pushed women out of the industry nearly altogether. Suddenly, the very character of movie making took on an incredibly masculine identity, both in production and in consumerism. When we compare this timeline to modern job statistics, we end up with an enhanced understanding of the dramatic decline in female employment within the industry, and the reasoning no longer seems arbitrary or coincidental. Without this history, and looking strictly at today's at-a-glance box office results, charts here provided by Declutter.com, it's not at all surprising that many industry leaders today confidently claim that the lack of female representation in modern film production is simply a reflection of the industry's economic need. You know, supply and demand. Translation: moviegoers just like films made by males better, and for some reason women don't make movies that audiences want to see. This claim is largely based on the assumption that the American audience maintains the same ideals and consumer habits of the past. But it isn't the 1950s anymore. The American public has fundamentally changed, specifically with regard to gender equality in the workplace. How could it be that we are a progressive society, yet maintain completely unprogressive entertainment preferences to the point that an entire industry labels half the population a niche audience not worth catering to, hiring, or equal pay? Even when looking at all these numbers, it just doesn't add up. Catherine here isn't satisfied with these numbers, and thankfully, as the founder and executive director of the Center for Study of Women in Television and Film, Dr. Martha Lawson wasn't satisfied either. Dr. Lawson is a very smart woman who watches a lot of movies. Rather, she studies them and regularly publishes in-depth statistical data and comprehensive analysis on the subject. Her work is considered the most reputable in her field and is referenced by a variety of industry leaders and researchers nationwide. She didn't like the simplistic analysis of minimal data, which she believed to be out of context. In her report, entitled Women at the Box Office, Dr. Lawson combines box office totals with a few other important figures. Her report clearly shows the link between box office gross and a film's original production budget. Among other things, the budget determines how much advertising the movie will get. Thus, a large budget is critical to a film's success. Dr. Lawson selected the top 250 grossing films of 2016 and appropriated the corresponding box office results to statistical data of male versus female employment as well as production budget. The results? Films made by women usually started with lower budgets, and yet their proportionate budget-to-profit numbers actually matched men's films. When considering the exponential disadvantages of lesser budgets, like less advertising, it isn't unreasonable to conclude that women's films actually outperformed men's films. So it looks like these guys don't actually have any real evidence to back up their claims that women are bad for the movie business after all. When looking at the entire picture, it seems like they could all actually make a lot more money if they prioritized female filmmakers and the American audience instead of dismissing them. It's tempting to try and figure out why the industry is ignoring the money-making potential and business genius of the untapped female workforce. But it looks like Catherine here isn't concerned with that question. She's much more interested in turning her so-called pipe dream into the gold mine she now knows it to be. The door is wide open, Catherine. Come on in!